there, I'm Tori Beach, a solo wedding videographer, and we're back again with another episode of I Do's and Don'ts, where I sit down with other wedding professionals to talk about the do's and don'ts of all things weddings. Today, I'm really excited to be sitting down with my friend Kristine Evanson, who is a florist. Hey Kristine, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to talk about these things. You have some really good do's and some really good don'ts, stuff that I don't think people have even thought about or didn't even know to think about. But before we jump into those, I want to talk a little bit about you. So tell me the name of your company and how long you have been in the industry.
Sure. So I'm Kristine with Flowers by Kristine, and I've been in business for myself now for about 8 years. And I worked for a couple other florists while I was going to the U of I for 4 years. So all told now about 12 years in the industry.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. So
Yeah.
what did you go to school for?
Horticulture.
Oh, wow. So you know like the nitty gritty when it comes to florals.
Yeah, I think I'm a little probably out of practice with the greenhouse management that my degree is in, but yeah. Yeah.
Well, it speaks volumes because I've said it to you before and I'll say it here. Like, you are the flower whisperer in my mind. Like, the stuff you can do with flowers is just, it blows me away. And your work is always just so beautiful.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, let's jump into some of these do's and don'ts. We've got them split up into 3 different categories. We're starting with consultations, and then we're going to jump into the ceremony and then into the reception. And I'm really glad that you split it up that way because I think these are really great things for people to think about in all 3 stages. But one of your first do's with the consultation is to keep your budget in mind. So talk to me a little bit about what that looks like when someone's coming in to get flowers.
Sure. So what I most often hear during the first consultation is just, I have no idea what flowers cost. I'm new to this. And that's completely understandable. But it is super helpful to come with just like a super general number in mind, like maybe even like a max number. Like, I just know that I don't want to go over 4,000, let's say. And like that just feels like my top.
Right.
And the reason that that's super helpful is because I'm always trying to stay where my client feels comfortable. And I don't want to be giving suggestions and then later realizing that that's just not realistic for where they want to be.
Right.
So it really just helps me tailor my suggestions to their price point, basically. Yeah. I think people really come into wedding planning really underestimating the cost of probably most of their vendors. So I don't take any offense at all if they're really underestimating what flowers cost, because how are they supposed to know until we break it down for them and then they get it.
Yep, I totally agree with that. Now, when they come in, and again, this is most likely for most people their first time ordering this type of flower. It's not just like a bouquet for Mother's Day. It's more than that. One of the do's that you had said was to bring inspiration pictures. So talk to me a little bit about what that looks like.
Yeah, so that is super, super helpful. And it's a huge tool that I use just to make sure that the bride and I are on the same page as far as like the look and the style and the feel that she's going for. I think there's certain words that people use like loose or romantic or natural, or like those could really mean anything. That's totally up to interpretation. And seeing a visual image really helps me sort of understand what natural means to this particular bride. So a lot of times what we do is I have them bring at least like a handful of images, sometimes, even 10, 12, we look at, I say like, what draws you to this image? And if what they're liking about it is purely the colors in it, great. We know that those are the colors that they like. And then maybe a different image, they don't like the colors, but they like the shape.
Oh, okay.
or something like that.
Right.
Or if in another image, they're like, I just really love this one flower that's in this picture. So I'm kind of taking bits and pieces of each inspiration image to kind of create something custom
Right.
for the bride.
Right. Right. I love that. I love that. And I think that's super important, especially because there's just, I mean, I am not versed in flowers at all. I just know what looks pretty. So I couldn't come to you and say, I want XYZ type flowers. So I love that, this is kind of where you draw inspiration even for their bouquets is by what inspiration they have found. One thing that you do mention though is that they should be aware that most of these pictures are highly edited. So what could that do as far as like their desire or their dream for like this inspiration picture is everything that I want, but it's highly edited? What does that mean for reality?
Sure, yeah. So this comes into play when a bride is like, I love this flower or this greenery in this photo, and either the saturation has been really cranked up or the brightness, and it really does change the look of the flowers. And I have to kind of explain, like, maybe Google an image and show them what this rose looks like in natural color versus
Right.
what it looks like with this editing style.
Right.
And I'm like, did you hire a photographer that edits this way? Because if you hired a bright and light and airy photographer, this flower is going to look like this. Or,
That's
what I mean?
crazy that even you are having to kind of explain that to them of how their photographer's style is going to change the way that their flowers look. Like I didn't even think about that. Now, do you ever ask them to see their photographer's work so you can kind of get a sense of what their pictures will look like?
I always ask who their photographer is.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I ask to see the dress. I ask for a lot of, I guess, non-floral necessarily related details, just because it's really helpful for me to see how it's all going to kind of come together in the end.
Yeah. Wow. I had no idea it was that involved on your end. That's so interesting. Your next don't is one of my favorites. And this one is don't bring your whole family to the consultation. I kind of feel like this one is probably self-explanatory, but talk to me a little bit why you have this as a don't.
Now that's a don't that you can clearly tell comes from experience, right? So I love it when a bride brings like her fiance, if he's into it, wants to talk flowers, or I get a lot of moms that come, or like a trusted friend, or the wedding planner is always great to have there because she has like the full perspective of the day. But if people come in with like everybody and like 8 people and a couple kids and everybody wants an opinion, and aunt whatever is acting like she's running the show, or dad's getting bored and on his phone, or like it's a little distracting. It's probably boring for half the people there. So just not necessary. Just bring like those like key people that you really want their opinion, basically.
Yeah, definitely. I have the same policy because I have my couples review their highlight film, and in the contract it even says in there, this is just for the couple. This is not for, and it's only available for a strict amount of time that they can review it, because it's at that point they can send me changes. And I had to learn that lesson the hard way, because I had a couple of highlight films get sent to aunts and uncles and cousins and all that kind of stuff. And then I got this major email with all of these changes from everybody else. And I thought, what do you want?
And contradicting each other probably too, because everybody has a different
right. It was so messy. And the poor bride was just like, I don't even know if I liked the film. Like, now that everybody's bringing these things up because there was this moment to make a choice, I don't even know if I like it. So yeah, I think it's really important for couples to remember this is about them and what they like. And as soon as the decision has been made, and it's put down and this is what we're going with, hardly anybody actually has a problem with it. Like, you know, your aunt may not like the color purple, but once you walk down the aisle with, you know, a bouquet that has purple in it, they're not going to care. And if they do,
Yeah.
well, I've got words for them. But
People just want to be involved and
yes.
sometimes overly involved.
Right, right. And there's some areas where, you know, that's appropriate. You can have, you know, spots for that. But things like this, I totally agree with you. It's just keep it small. Keep it to those people who are going to help you out. Okay, let's move on to ceremony. One of the do's you do have is to repurpose centerpieces. So what does that look like? How does that work? Walk me through that.
Sure, yeah. So I am a big fan of repurposing centerpieces. I do think that that is a great way to get more bang for your buck, like I said. And a lot of times what people will do is take like the taller designs that are up on floral stands that are either 24 inches, 40 inches, those kinds of heights, and place those down the aisle on either side. And I think that looks beautiful. And a lot of times those are the most costly designs.
Sure.
So it makes a lot of sense to get to see those twice.
So wait, you're saying that these are centerpieces that would be on the tables that you're taking before you put them in the reception, which they were designed for, you're saying put them in the ceremony.
Yeah, we do that.
I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, I've got some examples of that on my Instagram if anybody wants.
Well, we're linking everything to you below, so everybody go check her out anyway because you're gonna want to follow her because flowers make everybody happy, and Kristine is always posting beautiful pictures of her work. But yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I love the idea of repurposing stuff for the purpose of probably saving some money. But on that point, actually, your other don't is don't spend a whole lot of money on your ceremony decor, especially with a lot of these ceremonies being like 15 to 20 minutes long. So is that kind of an option? Is like if you don't want to spend a whole lot of money on the ceremony, we can look at ways we can repurpose stuff from the reception?
Yeah, definitely. It makes a lot of sense to just double duty
Right.
a lot of those ceremony flowers, or even just keep, you know, the ceremony decor relatively minimal and really just focus on a couple key pieces that are going to be, like I said, framing the couple,
Right.
you know, for those ceremony photos, and not really spending, you know, any large sum of money on the ceremony when it's just a quickie kind of
Right.
in and out, and then everybody's spending 5 or 6 hours or whatever it is at their reception.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Totally. It's interesting because your reception do's and don'ts actually kind of mimic your ceremony do's and don'ts, but in different ways. Because now that we've talked about the idea of repurposing your reception flowers, centerpieces for your ceremony, one of your do's that you have for the reception is to go with different heights of things. So talk to me, I mean, that's great for not only the ceremony, but I'm sure there's other reasons for that. So talk to me about why height difference is important.
Yeah, so dimension and depth are design elements that I think are just hugely important. They really make a big difference, in my opinion, as far as any design, bouquet, centerpiece,
Right.
boutonniere, even anything looks. And that goes for the reception space as well. You don't want to look out into this room and just see kind of like a flatness of all the tables look the same, everything's kind of one note, you know. So I like the idea of if the ceilings are high enough and it looks proportional in the space, to do some tall designs and then some lower designs, and then maybe even just to offset cost a little bit, some more candle focused or bud vase focused or kind of more minimal designs scattered throughout, and then you still get that overall like wow impact look when you walk into the room, and you're seeing this dimension and depth and interest in the space. It's really nice.
Absolutely. And I always notice that too. And I love that when I go into a because by the time I get to the reception, it's pretty much all set up by the time that I get there. And when you walk in and you do see that dimension, it makes it feel more elegant, which is interesting to me. And then I do love that, you know, some of the tables may have just a little bit of greenery and a lot of candles and, you know, floating in water or in a votive or whatever. But, and that was also, you know, part of one of your dues is like to offset some of your tables with maybe doing candles or, you know, like you were mentioning, like buds. And I think that, again, especially in the evening, you know, you've got those tables that are glowing with that candlelight. It's super romantic. And so I love that too.
Automatic ambiance.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So romantic.
Yeah, totally. Well, Kristine, thank you so much. Your do's and don'ts were brilliant, and I'm hoping that you know, those of you who are watching, you guys got some good information. Maybe you're in the beginning process of planning a wedding for yourself, so hopefully this will give you a little bit more confidence going into consultation to know what to do. And if you guys need inspiration, or you're in the Champaign-Urbana area, or maybe even Chicago, I don't know how far Kristine travels, but I will put all of her information below. She is phenomenal. Definitely check her out. But Kristine, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks again for having me. This was really fun, and I hope it was helpful for everybody.
I think so. I think so.
Awesome.
Thank you guys so much for watching today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you have any questions about the topics we spoke about today, please feel free to leave your comments in the section area below. Also, if you have any suggestions of topics that you'd like to hear us talk about, or specific wedding professionals you'd love to hear from, also please feel free to leave those down there below so we can take note and hopefully do an episode that you ask for. Anyway, thank you guys so much for continuing to watch these, and hope you guys stay tuned as we have many more coming. Thanks, guys.